Welcome back to Edgework on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find the show on YouTube as Edgework. You can find us on Twitter at Edgework Show. And if you want to track our picks in real time, you can go to the BetStamp app. You can click on the Find Betters section. You can find us there as Edgework as well. You can see all the picks that are given out on this show, tracked in real time, and see how we've been doing throughout the course of the season so far. And of course, if you missed the show live, you can listen to it back on all podcasting platforms. Russ, So Money, returned from the holiday season. I'll start with you, Russ. How's everything going? How was your holidays?
Good. It was great. You know, we had that cold snap that you guys probably had up there, but it was like -40 here in the Midwest. And fortunately, we didn't have to travel anywhere with all the Southwest debacle. So it's been great, man. It's been really good. It's finally starting to warm up a little bit, and yeah, it was a nice break. You know, a few days off from hockey wasn't a bad thing. So yeah, it was good.
Nice. So Money, good holidays.
Yeah, it was nice to have a couple of days off in the NHL. Actually, usually I miss when there's no hockey, but it was a nice little break this year.
So you got some sledding in also?
Yeah, I took the kids sledding. I missed
There
that.
you go.
I was lamenting in the chat that I missed a bunch of line moves because I was out all day sledding.
Well, my holidays were pretty good, but I was fortunate enough to not have to, when I had to go back to work after the holidays were over, I could get up and I could drive half an hour in, or I could work from home. But there was no rules restricting me as to when I could or could not return back to work, unlike the Toronto Maple Leafs, who had a $100,000 fine slapped on them yesterday for traveling on the 26th, the day before their game. At 10:30 p.m., their plane took off to go to St. Louis to get there a day early. I understand that this is part of the CBA. This was a rule that was broken, and this is the fine that has to go out. This might be the dumbest rule, or one of the dumbest rules of the NHL, and this just shows some of their incompetence in a way in terms of managing the league and making things right. I was talking to somebody about it, and I was saying, like, the NHL is so gung-ho about putting the best product they possibly can on the ice every single night. The highest quality of competition, making sure everyone is always ready to go, market their stars. You come back, you're going to have an opportunity for, in this case, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs going up against St. Louis. You're going to have Ryan O'Reilly involved in this. The Leafs going into St. Louis, like, this is a team where they've been linked with trade rumors, whether they're true or not. Like, there is going to be some eyeballs on this game. And yet the NHL, as they did with all the other games around the league that night, they've got teams flying into those cities on the day of the game. You're coming off a holiday, you're going to be a little bit rusty, and you're flying in on the day of the game. Mm-hmm. I do not understand how this promotes the highest quality competition that you could have, not allowing them to fly out the night before. Make the thing end at like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever it is, and then let the teams fly. This might be one of the dumbest rules. I just needed to get that off my chest to start the show, because that was one that was just like mind-boggling to me that was even a thing, and it's enforced as strictly as it is.
Absolutely. No, it's, these players are such routine-driven human beings. It's all about a routine. So it's like, this is just the routine that they followed before every away game, and they just do what they've been doing all year and get a six-figure fine slapped on them.
I'm just surprised that like this was agreed to in the CBA in the first place, right? Like the players would have had to agree to this as well. So it doesn't make any sense to me. And it just goes to show that like there's like sometimes the NHL, it gets easy to blame the NHL for this, but the players agreed to this as well.
Yeah,
sure. And like just like on like a holistic level, it just goes to show that sometimes the league just doesn't get it. Like I say this all the time, right? Like when I say the league, I mean the players as well, right? Like they just don't understand these things, sure. And it's tough to see as a fan sometimes. Like I can't see this being implemented in like any other league besides the NHL.
Yeah. This might have been one that was brought into place on like, maybe Torts was calling guys back, telling them to come back, fly back in on Christmas Day or something. Like, they need to bag skate the next morning, and the players are just like, all right, no, we're not dealing with it. But yeah, you're right. The players were involved in that one. I didn't even really think about that. But either way,
It's a
the
stupid
two
rule.
groups, yeah, the two groups need to come together and just get rid of that. Like,
Yeah.
just let them fly out the night before. It's really not that impactful. It's not that big of a deal. All right, let's get into some of the games here today. We'll break some of these down, give our best bets, and we will track all of them in the BetStamp app, as I mentioned in the Find Better section as Edgework there. And if you have any questions, comments, things that happened during the show, things that you want to bring up, or if you want to tell us your best bets, head over to the YouTube channel, Edgework, and you can comment in real time on YouTube. Unfortunately, we won't see them on Twitter, but we will see them on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe, like this stream, and comment in real time on our YouTube channel. Let's start this one off with the Rangers heading into Tampa here tonight. The Rangers currently are holding the last wildcard spot in the East. They are 5th in the Metro. It's a tight race in the East right now, especially when you kind of look down to where the wildcard spots are. Obviously, Boston running away. Toronto's got a good leg up on Tampa and some of the other teams a little bit lower down. Carolina also creating a bit of a gap for themselves in there. But once you kind of get down to the next level of teams, it's very, very close. We're looking at the Rangers 1 point back of the Caps, 1 point up on the Islanders, and then even looking down into like the Buffaloes and Floridas and stuff, they're not far off. It's a tighter contest down there for those teams of who may or may not make the playoffs this year. This Rangers team got on a heater, allowed them to get into the position that they're in. They went on a 7-game win streak before they lost to Pitt. Then they end up winning against the Islanders, and then they lose to the Capitals. And this Tampa team has started to just kind of figure things out. Like, Tampa is now 3rd in the Atlantic. They are on a back-to-back. They played against Montreal last night, but I mean, despite the fact that they are 7 points back of Toronto in the standings, Tampa has been a team that of late has started to look more and more like the Tampa Bay Lightning that we've seen. And I think the three of us have actually talked about it on the Thursday show before, is like Tampa kind of adopted the Golden State model after that they went through that run where they lost to Columbus in the first round. They kind of just said, our team is good enough on a nightly basis to get us to the playoffs. And then once we get to the playoffs, that's what's important. And that's what we're going to worry about. So it's really just looking at this Tampa team and being like, all right, like, let's see what you can do. But I mean, despite the fact that Tampa's at home here, they are on a back-to-back. Russ, do you think that this Tampa being favored against the Rangers right now, I'm seeing -123, +120 for the Rangers. You think that that's fair despite the fact that they are coming on the back-to-back?
I think this number is a little bit short. Yeah, when you take in the back-to-back where, they played a Montreal team that's bottom of the league, just probably, not much of an effort at all, pretty much got in and got out with the 4-1 win there, and they had no travel in between. So this is as light of a back-to-back spot as you can get. And regardless of if we get Vasilevsky or Elliott in goal here, my numbers do have the Lightning as a higher favorite than -125. So I did lock in the Lightning at -125 this morning. Now, there's a couple of thought processes behind this. If Vasilevsky does get announced in, that number will probably balloon out a little bit. I think most people are expecting Elliott. We were talking a little bit before the mic turned on, and So Money was saying that, don't be surprised if we get Vasilevsky's back-to-back here, which I would love either way. I think, Vasilevsky on a back-to-back or Elliott, are pretty even. There may be a little bit of a drop-off to Elliott. But, yeah, my numbers have the Lightning here favored significantly higher than -125. So I think that's a solid play. And just generally speaking, the Lightning have been awesome at home, 13-4-1 at home. And the Rangers have been winning games, but they have not been, the numbers have not shown that they've been playing very well. They don't drive play. That they have a great defense, and Igor Shesterkin is obviously an amazing goalie. But other than that, they don't get many scoring chances. They're 31st in expected goals for in the last 10 games. So they're just kind of relying on this awesome defense and this amazing goalie, where I think that this is just a step up in class for them tonight. And I think the Lightning as a short home favorite is a pretty solid play.
Yeah, I think the the contrast for both teams coming off the break is pretty interesting here. Rangers looked like garbage, as
Yep.
Gerard Gallant said. They looked horrible coming off their break, while the Lightning, granted, it was against Montreal. They did look very good. You touched on Tampa Bay going on a run, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it coincides with the return of Anthony Cirelli. I think that he's the driving force in that lineup that doesn't get a lot of notoriety. He's the kind of guy that puts the rest of the forward groups in their place in terms of the minutes allocation. So I think that um, Anthony Cirelli is a big deal for Tampa Bay. In terms of the goaltending, I think the line is fair right now. I do lean the Rangers, but not at the current number, um, because as Russ mentioned earlier, I wouldn't be surprised to see Vasilevsky. If it is Vasilevsky, I'm not playing the Rangers at this current number. So I think that we need to wait a bit to confirm the goalies here. Um, Pretty sure we'll get Shesterkin, although I've mentioned this before. Don't take Gallant for granted here. He can do whatever he wants at any time. So I doubt that Tampa Bay will. Actually, I know they won't have a morning skate, so we'll have to wait for Cooper's comments, his media scrum here in like a couple of hours. But if it is Elliott, I like the Rangers. If it's Vasilevsky, I'm probably staying away from this game.
It makes
Fair
sense.
enough. And I see Connor Hartle in the chat here saying Tampa is about to go on a roll, especially after hearing Cooper's comments about their
Yeah.
Christmas break starting early. Yeah, I think that the team might respond to that. And then he also says he's projecting Vasi in net tonight. But
Hmm.
we'll see what happens with the goalie news. And as always, So Money will keep us updated live during the show on what happens and when it happens. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Moving on to the next game here, Dallas, Minnesota. Dallas right now, first in the Central, 2 points back of Vegas for first in the West. They are 5 points up on Winnipeg, created a little bit of ground. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Like, this team has been very good. You're getting a lot of contribution from the young guys in your lineup. A lot of that has actually helped the older guys to alleviate some pressure off them. They don't have to be the driving force anymore in there. They can just kind of be themselves, fit into a role, and then you get Jake Ottinger in net, who's been absolutely incredible this season yet again. 919 save percentage. He's 15-5-3 on the year, 2.43 GAA. Like, he's been very, very good yet again, helping this team launch them into that upper echelon of the Western Conference. And then they're going up against Minnesota, who has started to figure some things out here for themselves. I think that their play has kind of gotten a little bit better, but 7-3 in their last 10. They're third in the Central right now. They went on a 6-game win streak, but that was unfortunately broken by San Jose. But this Minnesota team, like, I had talked about it on the Tuesday show, I believe it was. A lot of stuff had happened. A lot of stuff happened for them in a positive way since acquiring Ryan Reeves. I don't think that's because of the play of Ryan Reeves, but sometimes you just get a guy like that. Maybe it's the impact in the locker room and how they can kind of turn things around like that, or just having a guy like that around. We did see it with the Rangers when he went there, just the impact that he brought from a positivity standpoint almost and a motivation standpoint. But Minnesota has started to turn things around and get rocking here. They are favored here tonight against Dallas, minus 114 right now. Best price Dallas plus 105. So Money, is this an accurate reading of where this is at in terms of the odds?
I don't think so. And this is a kind of game that kind of falls right within my wheelhouse here. I did play Dallas. I think at plus 105. I think that that they're still good. I think they'll probably take money throughout the day here. Look, I'm not taking anything away from Minnesota here, and I'm the type of person when I look at a schedule and like I don't even if your wins have not been against the best teams, I'm not going to take that away from you because you can only play who's in front of you. But Minnesota has been starting to play better, but they're not. they haven't played as well as they should be playing considering their opponent, if that makes sense, right? So their wins now in the in this little run here have been against the Canucks, Detroit, Chicago, Ottawa, Anaheim, and they had a win against Winnipeg too, which was a good win, right? But in all those games, they played well enough to win, but it wasn't to the level that it should be considering their opponent. So I do take away a little bit there, and of course they are significantly stepping up in class against the Dallas team, who I'm very high on. I think that especially now Dallas is really starting to drive play, and we know about the goaltending. They're starting to try to get better defensively. I think that's a work in progress, and it will come as the season goes on. But I think Dallas is the better team. I think that Minnesota is starting to get overvalued a bit, so I do wanna step in front of that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where our numbers do line up. I was looking for a multitude of reasons to not play this morning, but the more I dig into it, the more it looks like the stars are the side. As far as power rankings, I have these two teams fairly close in my power rankings, both in about 8 and 9 in my power rankings. So there's not much of a difference there. But yeah, when you dig into some of the details in the last 10 games or so since they got Ryan Reeves, I think that the Wild have been a pretty much defense first team. They have not been driving play at all. Their scoring has really dipped. 18 goals for in the last 10 games. So I mean, but they've only allowed 10 goals in the last 10 games. So their defense is really impressive. But I agree with so many here. And this is a little bit of a step up, of course, compared to their recent schedule. And I think this should be probably Dallas should be a favorite here. So I'm in agreement. I think plus 105 is a pretty good line. I think that would
All
be
right,
a
well,
cool.
we'll lock that in on the BetStamp app. Also, Don Schultz mentioning Rupe Hintz is hot. Yeah, like they're getting a lot of
Yeah.
contributions from those guys, and even this guy Wyatt Johnson. Like Wyatt Johnson was a kid who was drafted, didn't really get a look, and then goes back to the OHL, has 124 points in 68 games last season in the OHL, and then has an incredible camp. They say, all right, well, you gotta come and play. This guy's got 10 goals and 15 points through the first 36 games. Like, he's playing and looking very good with Dallas so far this season. Like, you're just getting contributions from young guys that you didn't really expect, but some of that is, it just becomes overly important to do. You have to draft, you have to develop, you have to bring up young guys who can fit in on cheaper contracts, especially if you have older guys on more expensive contracts. And that's what Dallas has done very well so far. So it's looking pretty good for Dallas. But Connor Hartle asking, so Money, do you think Minnesota money is coming home? Do you think Minnie coming home off a long road trip is a net negative or net positive for them?
With these kind of things, there's a couple of factors that go into it for me. I think that the day off between the end of the trip and the first home game matters. Usually, if it's a longer trip, a Eastern team going west, Western team going east, if they have one day off in between, they are at a disadvantage. Their um their their first game back. In this case, when you look at the schedule, yes, Minnesota has one day off, but of course, this was broken up by the winter by the holiday break, right? So in this case, I wouldn't put much stock into that. In another situation where if they went out east, played 4 or 5 games out east, came home for one day, and then they're back at home playing, I think that in that scenario, that would be a disadvantage for them.
All
Makes sense.
right. Okay, let's go on to another game here. And as always, if you want to track the picks in real time, you can find our Edgework account on BetStamp. So you'll see that the plays are locked in there, as well as some of the plays given out on some of the other shows. Like, I just went and looked through. There's Carolina Metropolitan Division winner that was placed live, and Minnesota Wild Stanley Cup winner that was placed like a month ago. So those are all tracked on the account. You can
Well,
track those.
Not by the
What was the price on that?
Any
It
haters?
is plus 2,500.
25 to 1. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was not the Thursday group that placed
No, no.
that one for sure.
I forgot that was in there. I just pulled it up and was like, made me laugh a little bit that was in there. One of the guys in our office, he placed in like the BetSamp office, he had placed a future on the Anaheim Ducks to win the Western Conference or something like that. And it was like, yeah, that didn't pan out too well.
Just stuck in his bet, in his
Well, they
bet.
won last night, so they're on their way now.
Yeah, they're on the right track. Um, Another team that may not have any type of opportunity to win anything in terms of playoff spots, divisions, conferences, or anything like that would be the Ottawa Senators this year, despite how much their fan base thought that they had improved. And honestly, to be fair, I think the rest of kind of media and hockey fans had kind of assumed that they would take a step this season. It just has not really worked out for them. They did struggle with some goaltending issues early on with injuries to some of those guys, but aside from that, they've got them back, and it just still hasn't been great. I can't see them hopping into a playoff spot at this point. We talked about how tight the East is and all the teams that are kind of fitting into that gap of being a couple points away from each other. Ottawa being 10 points out of a playoff spot at this point with those teams ahead of them. I just don't see them making any type of jump. They did just beat the Boston Bruins for the second time this year, so congrats to them. Like that is pretty big, and it's something to take notice of, but they're going up against Washington, who is on an absolute roll right now. 9-1 in their last 10. They're tied for points with the Penguins. They're 1 point up on the Rangers. They're holding on to that first wild card spot. This Washington, to me, I had counted them out. I thought they were going to be too old, dealing with some of these injuries that they had been. Tom Wilson being out, Backstrom being out. They lost Kuznetsov for periods of time. I just thought, I don't know if they can get it done, but obviously the OV goal chase has put some life into those legs in Washington, and they're finding a way right now. But Russ, looking at this one, minus 170 tonight against the Senators, plus 155. Washington is at home in this game. You think this is probably fair price? And I mean, I guess a second part of this would just be like, how much longer do you anticipate, or do you see Washington's run of, I mean, maybe the wrong word for this, but dominance being?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when just looking at the number, this is a little bit long to me to make Washington a minus 170 at home. But you got to be crazy to step in front of this steamroller right now. I mean, especially with this Ottawa Senators team. And our numbers have liked the Senators pretty much all year, but I'm more looking to play the Senators when they're plus 190, plus 200. 155 doesn't really get me there. So I would need something substantially higher than that, which is probably not going to happen. But yeah, this Washington team has been playing awesome. Since getting Kemper back, they've just been playing amazing. They've won 13 of their last 17 games. And even TJ Oshie is getting healthy right now. So they could get even more dangerous. And yes, it seems like basically with the OV goal chase and just where they're at in the standings, they're just playing with nothing to lose every night and just slowly making their way up the leaderboard in the Metro. Yeah, like you said, they just passed the Rangers and they're in the fourth spot right now, and they're tied with the Pens in points. So it seems to me like they're just unstoppable right now. I don't necessarily think the market has flipped on them, although this minus 170 does seem a little bit steep. But I would, in a week or two, I would look for the market to flip. And once we start seeing minus 190s and minus 200s on the Washington Caps, I think it's probably time to look the other way. But I think this will be a great game to watch. I have no plays on this game. I think Washington should take care of business, but it could be a close game early. This will just be a fun one to watch for me, but there would be no play.
Yeah, on the surface, the number on Ottawa looks it does look sexy, but I mean, Ottawa, they've shown that they're a very streaky team. They had their bump up where they were playing well, they were getting results. They're back to the way they were playing earlier in the season now. We do have to account for for injuries. They are closer to getting guys back. A couple of guys should be coming back today. Especially they're also getting some defensive help back today. So we do need to keep that in mind. But at the same time, I I'm not interested in stepping in front of Washington right now. I think that Washington's results are warranted based on the way that they're playing. So I think that the number is good, and I even in Ottawa's win against Boston, that shootout win, I didn't score that as a win for Ottawa. So that gives me the last 6 games where Ottawa I've scored that game as a loss, even though they've got 3 of those wins. So it's something to keep in mind. They're not playing well, and I'm not sold on the results they've been getting. They had a 3-2 win at home against Montreal, which I scored as a loss. A 6-3 win in Detroit, which I scored as a loss as well, because I I don't think that 6-3 final was warranted, and of course the 3-2 shootout win, which I don't think they should have won that game. So it's the last 6 games now um, where I don't think Ottawa has been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Before we get into the last game here that we'll preview, if anyone in the chat has any questions about anything or any games that they're looking at, they have any opinions that they're looking for, make sure to let us know. You can, if you're on Twitter watching right now, you can head over to the YouTube. The link is in the description, and you can go on the YouTube, comment in real time. We will see it there. Like this comment from Paulino saying it's the most handsome trio on Edgework, and then mentioning he can only listen to the Friday show. I apologize for that, Paulino. That's come back on the Friday show tomorrow and let Andy know that you said that, because I'm just gonna blame that one on Andy. That's Andy's fault. Let's get into the last game here, and if there are any questions in the chat, as always, just let us know and we'll try to get to those. Kings, Colorado. This one is more just an interesting one to me because the LA Kings started off really hot and they managed to find a way to just hold on. Like, they are still holding on right now. They're second in the Pacific. They're 4 points back of Vegas, which if you had told me at the beginning of this season they would be in this position to be that tight behind Vegas, I would have told you were nuts. Even today when I looked at the standings, I knew where they were at, but just to see that point number and be like, wow, they are only 4 games back was shocking to me. And then you just dig into it a little bit more. Both goaltenders, Peterson and Quick, have been below 900 so far this season. The only guy who's above was their third goaltender, whose name is actually escaping me right now, but he had like a 916. Yeah, and he had a 916. He hasn't played many games, but I mean, still, he's been like the only guy out there who's been able to give them any type of goaltending, and they're just still trucking along in spite of it. They're still producing wins. They're still finding a way to create some type of offense and managed to be 4 points back of Vegas, which was just shocking to me. And then on the other end, you've got Colorado, who's hanging on to that last wild card spot, but they are tied with Seattle and Edmonton with 40 points. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're missing Pavel Francouz, McKinnon, Landeskog. Like, they've been run through the injury mill at this point. So for them to stay in the spot that they're in, holding on to the wins that they, being able to get these wins that they have, I think it's pretty impressive. But I'm looking at this one here tonight. Colorado's minus 145 at home against the Kings. Seeing Kings plus 138 was best price. I'm a little bit shocked to see Colorado in that position. Like, am I out to lunch to see the number like that? Like, is this what it should be? So money?
No, I completely agree with you. I think that Colorado obviously has been decimated by injuries. We do need to keep that in mind. They have, in spite of the injuries, though, they have played well enough to win their games. Now, keep in mind that wins were against Islanders, Montreal, and Nashville, and then of course whatever that was in Arizona the other night with Connor Ingram losing to him. But um, we have to keep the injuries in mind. Colorado, they're not playing as well defensively as they have in the past. Um, and they're playing against a LA team that has shown the ability now to consistently drive play. And we've touched on the Kings before. They're a good team. 5-on-5, they're a very good team. Um, they they just don't get the goaltending. Now, Phoenix Copley, he's actually the number one guy there, right? And
Yeah.
he'll probably get the start again. And he's been good enough. Like you mentioned the stats of the three guys. Copley has been good enough, and that's all that this Kings team needed to be able to go on a run. So I think that I do like the Kings here. Market is a little bit slower to adjust on Colorado just because they even through the injuries they were getting results, um, but the metrics were not that great. So especially defensively. So I think that it's going to take some time for the market to catch up. I do like the Kings here. I'm just waiting for some roster clarification, but if there's no surprises during morning skate, and if Colorado doesn't get any surprise guys back, I will be on the Kings.
Yep, I'm in pretty much agreement with everything So Money said here. Just to add a couple of things, yeah, I was very surprised to see Colorado open as minus 160 favorite when I popped the screen open this morning. I thought this would easily, be a lot closer to minus 125, minus 130 for the Avs. Yeah, just digging into some of the numbers, like you guys have said, Colorado's just kind of sort of trying to skate by. This is more like the Colorado Eagles team than the Colorado Avs team. And their defense has been holding them into games. They're third in expected goals at home, and they're 29th in expected goals for. So they just have not been generating very many scoring chances, but they don't give up any scoring chances either. So it keeps them in almost every game. I haven't pulled the trigger on this game yet because I'm waiting for a few roster things and to see if Colorado gets anybody back. That could certainly change my number. But yeah, I think that if you're going to play, if minus one or plus 135, plus 130 on the Kings is a great play. These guys have been playing very, very well. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more to be said. The Kings have been actually playing better defense recently, and their scoring has always been there. The last couple of years, they've been one of the better scoring teams in the country. So yes, I haven't played anything yet, but I think that So Money and I probably will end up on the Kings here, especially if the number stays right around plus 135. I think that's a solid play.
And if there's any chance that Bednar wants to get frisky and we see Jonas Johansson in net,
yeah, that would be great.
Then it's an absolute no-brainer. And then as soon as you see a Jonas Johansson confirmation, I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe after a 6-3 loss to Arizona, he wants to shake things up, and
yeah,
which I'd be all for. As if we get that confirmation, then you just run to the window on the Kings.
Yeah.
And Connor Hurdles here saying bet the Kings plus 145 last night.
Good
Very
price.
nice.
That's a good number. Yeah, so we could see some of those numbers disappear throughout the day. So yeah, I would say definitely jump on those plus 135s here soon.
Okay, I have one last thing to ask you guys before we're not necessarily break this game down, but Leafs in Arizona here tonight. Is this a spot where you just look and maybe grab like an Arizona plus 2.5 if they're hanging around out there, like we've seen Moretto do numerous times this season?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Arizona's not playing poorly, right? The last they had a run there of like 5 games where I scored as a loss, but their last 6 games here, overtime loss, win against the Kings, and a win against Colorado. Like, they're not playing. Oh, they're not playing poorly. So it's one of those situations where Zach, you know this better than anyone. This is the kind of game that the Leafs probably don't take as seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to take a shot at Arizona.
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
They've been playing well, at home when they play at that little arena. Nobody knows what to expect when they're traveling there, and yeah, they actually play really well. So yeah, I think that's an interesting look. Yeah, I certainly am not going to play Toronto, any direction.
Yeah, no. I'm just waiting. Like, this is one of those ones I was looking at and I see the odds for is like plus 265, minus 263. You're seeing best prices on this. I'm like, oh man, Leafs teams of years past, this is one of those ones that just absolutely terrifies me. Like, I don't even want to touch it. I'm just going to watch the game and pray we get out of there. Otherwise, like, this is one of those ones you lose, and tomorrow morning it's what's wrong with the Leafs. Like, Morgan Riley's coming back tonight. It's gonna be, should we trade Morgan Riley? Is he the problem? So I'm just like, as a Leafs fan, I'm just gonna watch this one, not touch it, and get out of there on that. And Jordan Moso saying Yotes are a wagon. Also, what is the value of home ice at Mullet Arena? 20% added win probability.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all the student section.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And I listened to a podcast with their general manager, and he's just like, these guys love playing at home. They know it's going to be an absolutely insane crowd, obviously sold out every time. It's not difficult.
Biting fingertips.
Yeah. So I think they're scrappy at home, especially if you get a number like this. It's worth a flyer. I mean, yeah. I think it should be a fun watch.
All right. Last thing we'll do before we get out of here, just because Connor Hartle asked very nicely. Any quick thoughts on Canucks Jets? So many. We'll start with you, as Connor buttered you up a little bit here, saying it's always nice to hear your Vancouver breakdowns. But any thoughts on that game?
I think it's a fair number. I think that the Jets should be favored. Look, I've ragged on the Canucks all season. The fact of the matter is that their play has slowly started improving. Even their defensive metrics, as shocking as that is, it's starting to trend better. Although the bar was set so low when the season started. Concern for the Canucks is that their goaltending is well below average, which is not surprising. We're seeing Spencer Martin being asked to carry a workload that he's just never had to do in his career. So that's not surprising. Winnipeg has also struggled here. Their play has dropped off quite a bit as well, especially on the offensive side of the ice. So I think it's a fair number. Winnipeg should be favored. So on this one, I'll pass. But that being said, if this number keeps on creeping higher on the Canucks, I may actually have a play on the Canucks this season. So let's see. But right now, I think I think it's a fair price.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there. Just to add one quick thing, I think the side is pretty even, but the way that we have been looking with Spencer Martin games is the over. So if that number keeps trickling down, I think minus 120 over 6 or plus money over 6.5 is probably the way that I will look in that game.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in here today. If you enjoyed the stream, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit like on the YouTube there. If you were watching on Twitter, head over to the YouTube. There's a link in the description of the video there. You can click on subscribe to our channel, like this stream, and you can also turn on notifications by clicking that bell so you get notified every single time that we go live Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. And if you miss the show in real time, you can always watch it back, listen to it back on all podcasting platforms, or obviously watch it back on YouTube. Russ, So Money, good to talk to you guys again. Glad you guys had good holidays. Good luck on your bets tonight, and I will see you next Thursday.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Good luck.